Hello fellow brawlers, I'm KairosTime, and it is time for balance changes in Brawl Stars already, guys. Pretty epic. Now we're going to be jumping right into these balance changes, and I'll explain how they are going to change interactions for the meta. Now Supercell couldn't give me the dev build for the changes in time for this video, so I can't show you all the changes, but I can outline these changes and how they will impact all interactions with different brawlers using the power of math. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe for more Brawl Stars content in the future. We're gonna go ahead and start off with the buffs and then move on to the nerfs. Starting off, guys, we've got Tara getting 2 buffs. First is attack damage buff to her Black Portal star power. Damage being increased from 400 to 600 damage per attack, which is a 50% buff, and that's actually quite a lot. It's pretty obvious that her Healing Shade star power was the better out of the two, and I'm thinking that this actually might be enough to change it so that like Black Portal is a little bit more viable. With that said, though, I still think it's going to need a little bit more HP before it's really super solid, but we'll see. Now, additionally, guys, Tara's main attack is receiving an 11% damage buff as well. That is significant. At max level, each card's damage being increased from 532 damage to 588 damage. With a full attack, the damage is increasing from 1,596 to 1,764. This buff is enough to make it so that almost every brawler will get taken out with one less card, but it will also impact a lot of other 1v1 interactions up close. Tara will now be able to take out the following brawlers with one less complete attack with her buff: Barley, Crow, Piper, Rico, Spike, Bo, Jean, Shelly, Daryl, El Primo, and Frank. This is a big change, especially for those squishier brawlers, as Tara will now be able to take them all out with only 2 attacks. Additionally, with her super and 3 quick attacks, she'll now be able to burst down even more brawlers, including Pam, BB, 8-Bit, and Carl. That's definitely going to make her more of a threat than she used to be. Up next, we have Jessie, who's receiving 1.5 buffs. That's right, the first one's her half buff. Her main attack damage is getting buffed by 2%, guys. 2%. That's right, at max level, her main attack damage is increasing from 1,148 to 1,176 damage, which does not sound like a lot, and it's not. Basically, Supercell is bringing her damage up to match exactly what Penny's is, and is only going to change her interaction with El Primo and Frank, who she will now be able to take out in 7 hits instead of 8. But her interactions with every single other brawler is exactly the same, so I'm not really impressed with this buff. Now, with that said, her turret damage is also getting an 8% damage buff, and that is significant. At max level, it's going from dealing 336 damage to 364 damage with a single little bullet. That does change things quite a bit, kind of. It's not going to change any interactions with those long-range brawlers that are going to be able to get rid of the turret from a distance, but it is going to help make Jessie a slightly better counter against some close to medium range brawlers. Next, though, we've got Crow, who's receiving 3 buffs and a hidden 4th buff. That's a lot of buffs. First is a 7% damage buff to his main attack. At max level, each dagger is going from 420 damage to 448 damage, and a full attack is going from 1,260 to 1,344. That is excluding poison. This changes a lot of Crow's interactions with brawlers. Almost every single brawler will get taken out with 1 less dagger, but including poison, Crow will now be able to take out each of the following brawlers with 1 less full attack than before: Brock, Colt, Dynamite, Jessie, Leon, Penny, Tara, Mortis, Nita, Poco, and Daryl. And that is quite a few changes, guys. Additionally, Crow's super is getting the same 7% damage buff for each dagger. Now it's dealing 448 with every single dagger. Now, the hidden buff is that his poison's also going to deal more damage. This is because Crow's poison is always programmed to deal 1/4 of the damage of like a single dagger for each tick of poison. So his poison is going from 105 damage per tick to 112 damage per tick, which is also a 7% damage buff. Now, lastly, guys, Crow's extra toxic star power is getting a 23% buff to the amount of damage that it reduces from poisoned enemies. What that means is it's going from a 13% debuff to a 16% debuff. Now, I can't really say if this is going to make this a viable star power over carrying Crow until after I've tested it, but I will say Crow is getting a ton of buffs, and I'm really excited to play with him. Up next, we've got Piper, who's getting a pretty insane buff. Her ambush star power the additional damage that comes from it is going to be increased by 60%. It's going from an additional 500 damage at max range, as if that wasn't enough, to an additional 800 damage at max range when she is hiding in a bush, and that is crazy good, guys. We're talking about a max shot in a bush going from 2,796 damage to 3,096 damage, which is crazy. She will now be able to one-shot Tick. One shot! One regular attack, Tick will not stand a chance. She'll also be able to two-shot almost all the other brawlers, and with 3 complete shots, we're talking about 9,288 damage, and that means that she'll be able to 3-shot every single brawler in the game except for Rosa while she's using her super. That is just crazy, and on the right map with lots of bushes, I definitely think that this is going to make her ambush star power a much better option over snappy sniping. 9,000 damage with 3 attacks, guys? That's crazy. Up next, we got Mortis, who is also getting a buff to one of his star powers. His Creepy Harvest star power is getting a healing buff of 29%, bringing the healing whenever he kills an enemy brawler from 1.4 thousand to 1.8 thousand healing. That is a ton of healing every time Mortis gets a kill, and I think this is going to make Creepy Harvest a better star power for competitive players. I still think that most players are going to prefer Coiled Snake because it just makes Mortis so much easier to use. But with that said, this will help Mortis do much better at getting multiple kills in a row with his star power. Jean's Magic Puff star power is also getting a 50% healing buff. Teammates that are within a Pam's turret amount of range of Jean will now be healed 300 health per second rather than 200 health per second, which they used to get. This is a lot more healing than before, and I think that it will be very helpful in some circumstances, but I still don't think that it's going to be a reason to really use Magic Puffs over Spirit Slap most of the time. Spirit Slap is just so rewarding. It helps him deal so much more damage, and Magic Puffs just encourages bad behaviors by bunching up close to teammates and can, in a way, punish your team just because you guys are up close to each other. And, you know, skilled players try to stay away from each other as much as they can. Now, with that said, we'll see if it actually does make an impact in some situations. I could be totally wrong. Now, those are the brawlers that are getting buffed. Now let's talk about the brawlers that are getting nerfed. You probably guessed it. Sandy's on that chopping block, just ready to get nerfed. First off, Sandy's super recharge rate is getting a 20% nerf. It will now require 6 hits for Sandy to charge his super rather than the 5 hits it used to take. Now, I do think this is going to impact things, but I don't think that it will make him that much less strong, since honestly it's pretty easy for Sandy to get hits on enemy players due to his range and the fact that it pierces. Also, like when he's invisible, like it's super easy to do that. So, however, that said, that's not the only nerf that he is getting. Sandy's Rude Sands star power is getting an 80% damage nerf. It's going from 200 damage per second all the way down to 40 damage per second. Over the course of 12 seconds, that means that Sandy's star power will only deal 480 damage if an enemy player is standing inside the storm the entire 12 seconds. Now, the best comparison for this is like one of El Primo's 4 punches hitting you in the face. That damage, I mean, you can basically ignore that damage in most cases. However, Sandy's super is still going to last for 12 seconds, so you won't be able to hide in bushes in the sandstorm because of the damage, and you won't be able to heal if you're inside that storm, so that's very important to consider. Oh yeah, it still lasts 12 seconds, guys. That's insanely good. Like, seriously, I can only imagine Supercell was thinking one thing, and that would be that they couldn't nerf the duration without doing an actual client update. This is going to be a server-side update, and so my guess is it's very likely that they'll be nerfing that duration in a future update because it's just so good right now, guys. Now, just to be clear, I do think that Healing Winds is going to be the much better star power for Sandy right now, but we'll see once we do actually get to try it out. Next, we have BB getting 1.5 nerfs. That's right, guys. Her health is getting a whopping 2% nerf. That's right. 2%. I don't know what's up with these 2% balance changes. It did hardly anything for Jesse, and it's going to do hardly anything for BB. Hey, baby Kairos, will you please be quiet there in the background? At max level, her HP is going from 6,160 HP to 6,020 HP, which will align her exactly with Pam and 8-bit. As far as interactions go, the only change is going to be that she will be taken out with 1 less complete hit from El Primo, which honestly is hardly a change since his reload speed is so fast anyways.
Let's go get you some toys.
At least that's not the only nerf that BB is getting. Her batting stance star power is getting a 25% nerf to how much damage it actually shields. It's going from 40% damage reduction down to 30% damage reduction, and this is actually pretty significant. I don't think it'll impact things too much. Most players were using her home run star power even though batting stance was so strong, simply because her home run star power made her feel so good. So we'll see what happens with BB, but I think that she's mostly going to be just as good as she was before, aside from like high-end competitive level gameplay. Tick, however, is getting some serious nerfs that he definitely deserved. First of all, Tick's mines are now going to be deployed in a fixed pattern on the ground. Here is an image of what it will look like, and I am so thankful for this. I'm not a fan of randomness in Brawl Stars, at least with this kind of attack. It was annoying both on offense and annoying on defense as well. And my guess is that it will actually be mirrored for the enemy Tick, but I don't know, we'll see once the balance changes are live. So like, this isn't really like a nerf, it's just kind of a little bit of a rework, but he is getting 2 other big nerfs. First of all, the explosion radius from his attack is being decreased by 6%, which is actually very strange. 2 updates ago, Tick's attack radius was 3 1/3 tiles, and then it was buffed by 11% to be 3 2/3 tiles. With a 6% nerf as it is right now, that puts his radius to 3.44 tiles radius, which breaks a lot of typical rules for ranges, since almost every brawler in the game has a range that is divisible by 1/3 of a tile. My guess is that they're making an exception for Tick because he was too weak before his buff and too strong after it. I'm really excited to see how this will actually play out for Tick, but he's getting a 3rd balance change. Before this update, Tick's attacks had a 2-second duration on the ground before they would explode, and that duration is getting a 20% nerf, and they are now going to only last 1.6 seconds. That paired up with the nerf to his attack radius is going to make a massive impact on his ability to control the field. I think that Tick is about to become a lot less viable. I still think he's going to be strong, but he's definitely not going to be as game-breakingly annoying as he was before. I'm honestly really excited about this change because playing against a skilled Tick was like one of my least favorite things to do in the last meta. Lastly, guys, we got El Primo getting a nerf to his Meteor Rush star power. The duration of his increased speed is going to be nerfed by 20%. It's going from 5 seconds down to a 4-second duration. I think this is a pretty solid change. I think the star power is still going to be very viable, like especially on Brawl Ball, but definitely not as OP as it was before. I'd like to see how it's going to impact how often people choose Meteor Rush over like El Fuego. And those are the balance changes coming to Brawl Stars. They should already be here as you're watching this video. I'm really curious to know what you guys think about these changes, so let me know in the comment section below. Personally, I don't think that too many things are going to change a whole lot. I already have a list of balance changes that I would like to see in the next update, but I'll be saving that for a future video that you're not going to want to miss out on. For now, guys, this is KairosTime ticking by, and we will see you in Brawl Stars.